time has finally come for me to rank my favorite James Bond movies from worst to best. And I'm going to be ranking these movies in the order of my personal enjoyment. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with what I like about the movie, and then I'm going to state maybe some points of the movie I don't like. It'll definitely be heavier on one end than the other as we begin the list, and then it'll definitely fall into things that I like more as we get to the top of my list. So, here we go. This is going to be the first time. It actually took me a while to put this together because I have not seriously sat and ranked them for myself before. So here we go. And I am including Never Say Never Again. So instead of 25 Bond films, I'm doing 26. I'm going to count it. Number 26. Die Another Day. This is my least favorite James Bond movie. I thought the opening sequence was great. Very exciting. Lots of fun. I liked the music going into it. But then, as the movie progressed, the CGI and a lot of the fake scenery was just way too bad, way too much. And then Madonna showed up in it, made it even worse. The bad acting by most everybody in the movie, it was pretty bad. But I will say this, the absolute worst part of this movie was Halle Berry. Just the worst acting I think I've ever seen in almost any movie. It was just awful. And it ruined the movie for me. Halle Berry literally ruined Die Another Day for me. That's why it's my least favorite. Even though the opening, it was so promising, it looked great. Number 25, Never Say Never Again. And what I enjoyed most about it was getting to see Sean Connery again in the role. And Barbara Carrera, she was fun to have in the movie. Because I really liked her in another old movie, an old Disney movie called Condor Man, where she was actually not the villain, but she was a hero, and a lot of fun in that movie too. And Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean, was in Never Say Never Again. And we had James Bond on Street Hawk. He was on a motorcycle that was outfitted, but it looked like Street Hawk. But what I didn't like about the movie was it was a complete, total remake of Thunderball, and it wasn't as well done. The acting wasn't as good in it. The music really, it's not one of those soundtracks, because I'll listen to the Bond soundtracks, but Never Say Never Again is definitely not a soundtrack I really listen to, because it's not one of those. So at number 24 is No Time to Die. Now, I believe it is beautifully shot. Cinematography on it was amazing. The music was really nice. The style, the clothing that Bond had, the locations, some very amazing, beautiful locations. However, they killed James Bond. And just thinking back on how I'm rating these movies on my enjoyment of the movies, with them killing James Bond, it killed tradition. They killed Felix Leiter, and they just didn't do Bond's character justice, and it ruined my enjoyment of the movie. No matter how beautiful it was, I did not enjoy it. Amazing how, though, that I would even prefer to watch James Bond die than watch Halle Berry in a James Bond movie ever again. Okay. At number 23, Tomorrow Never Dies. There was a lot of action that I liked in it. Teamwork. I liked the teamwork with Bond and his partners that he partnered up with. Locations were very beautiful. Had some pretty fun music in it as well. But to me, I think other than No Time to Die, I think Tomorrow Never Dies had probably one of the worst villains. Was just really bad. A news mogul, and I did not enjoy him as a villain. And it kind of didn't have a really good flow to it. It was kind of choppy the way it was done. At number 22 is Octopussy. Now, Octopussy has some music that I liked in it quite a bit. And I liked the locations for Octopussy. I enjoyed getting to go to India and see those different locations. It had that Cold War realism, because I remember the time that it came out, and that was very real back then. That was the common enemy, of course, back in the 80s when this came out. That opening with the jet, that was so cool. That jet was so cool. But other parts of the movie were just too goofy. That brought the complete enjoyment factor way down on Octopussy for me. And then at number 21, I had to list Dr. No. And I know it's the original Bond, Dr. No is. But I found it kind of not very exciting. It was kind of boring. But I loved the locations. I did like the cinematography. It had the old look to it. That retro Bond, of course, is very, very comforting to see, that old style film. I enjoy that quite a bit. But it is a little, as far as personal enjoyment, it is, kind of lower on my rankings. At number 20, From Russia with Love. Now, this is definitely a good old-fashioned spy movie. It's a solid spy movie. Had really good style to it. I felt From Russia with Love, I liked the villain in it. I liked the Russian assassin. And I liked the poison tip of the shoe. that was pretty innovative, and so certain things like that were really cool about From Russia with Love. But again, it was just a little slow. Some of it kind of boring, but again, it also has that really nice retro Bond with Sean Connery feel to it. But again, I like the movie. It's just, this is just kind of where it falls in my personal enjoyment ranking. Again, I like the theme song a lot, but not one of the soundtracks I really listen to that much either. At number 19, I have Quantum of Solace. And I really enjoy the style of Bond in Quantum of Solace. I liked the relationship that Bond had with the lead actress as well. Where Bond is helping her. He helps her through some mental things too. He's going through mental things, and he sees someone else going through these mental issues as well, and he helps her through it. And did it in a non-romantic way, but like here's someone who I'm going to help, and I'm not going to even get involved with her. And it seemed like they both walked away from it just stronger for it. So I liked that part of it. But as far as my enjoyment of the overall movie, it didn't rank as high as some of the others. Now, this may take some by surprise. Because at number 18, I have Spectre. I actually enjoyed Spectre more than Quantum of Solace, and I know a lot in the Bond community don't rank Spectre very high, but I liked the scenery. I liked the cinematography. Yeah, I felt the camera work on Spectre was great. The music, I enjoyed the music a lot. Again, the style, Bond style was really nice. The style of the supporting actors, I thought was actually very good as well. One of the reasons why it didn't score higher than where it was on my enjoyment level, though, was the Blofeld story of it. Blofeld being Bond's brother. I didn't like that. And the development of all of that, I didn't really care much for that. So that kind of took away from my enjoyment of the overall movie. At number 17, I have The Man with the Golden Gun. And this is probably ranking maybe a little higher than most would put it. I'm sure some would put Spectre or Quantum of Solace before Man with the Golden Gun. But I found it to be an intriguing story. I liked the dueling assassins. I thought that was a very intriguing bit of the story. I liked the locations that we got to go to. That was pretty fun. The music, and it's not my favorite theme song, but the music in it is fairly enjoyable. It is one of the soundtracks that I do listen to from time to time. The enjoyment level was a little lower on it, though, of course, because of Goodnight, the acting of Goodnight. The sheriff was in there. It was just, some of it was a bit goofy. Again, a little too goofy with some of it. But the parts with Scaramanga and Bond, very well done. When they were on screen together, it was really cool to watch. So that's why it kind of ranks above, probably even higher than where most may put it. Now, this one is going to really blow some minds, because in the Bond community, this is usually seen as a made-for-TV movie, and the enjoyment level's usually pretty low. But for me, it came out at a time when I was just first discovering Bond, and that is at number 16, A View to a Kill. I loved the skiing Bond in the beginning, because over time I've learned to love Bond when he's skiing. I love the skiing scenes in the movies, and so I liked that part. I liked Duran Duran. Duran Duran is still probably one of my favorite bands of all time, and I love the theme song to A View to a Kill. And because it was one of my first Bond movies, when it came out, it came out at a time when we could rent videotape. And so when I first rented this was my pick. In our family, sometimes we'd go and we would get to pick a movie. This was my pick. And so I'm watching A View to a Kill on videotape. Even to this day, it almost feels like comfort food when I watch it. Yeah, now, it does have that made-for-TV look to it. It kind of feels like there's a bit of cheapness to the cinematography and everything. But again, it scores higher in my enjoyment, because it's kind of like a comfort food to me to watch it. And I like the soundtrack as well. Well, actually, not all of it. I guess I would have to say the theme song, mostly. At number 15, The World Is Not Enough. I felt it was well shot. The music, I do like the music. I do like the theme song quite a bit. I liked Brosnan's style. And with Elektra, I found her to be a fascinating villain. I know the other villain where he can't feel pain and thing. I kind of saw him as like a side villain. To me, Elektra stole the show, and she did a great job. What brings the enjoyment level down was Dr. Christmas. Terrible. Just terrible. But I will say this. I think I even preferred Dr. Christmas over Halle Berry. I said it. Dr. Christmas I thought was even better than Halle Berry. Okay. Number 14. Live and Let Die. And I will say this. I would say maybe a couple years ago, this would have scored way lower on my enjoyment factor. It wasn't until on in the Bond community, I watched some videos and kind of saying, well, give Live and Let Die a good chance, and it was ranking really high on some of theirs, and it wasn't one that I really enjoyed. But I said, let me give it another shot. So I did. I watched it again with some fresh eyes, and it came way up on my enjoyment factor. I love the music. I grew to love the music. I liked the gadgets, and I liked getting to see Bond in his home environment in the beginning. That was pretty cool. Not the best villain, not the best story, but I really grew to love this soundtrack, and it has become one of the soundtracks that I listen to. The whole Voodoo Land, that kind of brings the enjoyment level for me down. Just the environment Bond was in just wasn't as exciting as most of his other movies. But there are things that I enjoyed from, again, the enjoyment factor for me that brought it up to number 14. So at number 13, I have Skyfall. Number 13, Skyfall. I believe that it is a beautiful movie. Beautiful to watch. Again, just shot very nicely. And what I enjoyed, now some people say that they find Skyfall to be slow, too long. I like it that they took their time with each portion of the movie. They didn't rush any of it. I will say this, I kind of liked that they did that in No Time to Die as well. They portioned the movie very well. And each time they were in a certain section of the movie, they took their time with it, fully developed it, let it completely play out before they moved on to the next portion. I felt they did that with Skyfall very well too. The ending, very well done, that whole ending portion. So Skyfall, yep, at number 13. The only thing that kind of I didn't like about it was I was getting a little tired of the depressed Bond. So that part was getting a little old, kind of brought the enjoyment factor down a little bit. Other than that, not a whole lot wrong with that movie. So you may be thinking, wow, Skyfall, that's only at the halfway point. I thought it'd be much higher. Remember, this is my personal enjoyment level with it. So here we go. This is going to shock some more people that I would put some of these before Skyfall. Skyfall's number 13. At number 12, Diamonds Are Forever. Again, this is another one that is like comfort food to me. And I listen to this soundtrack. I love the title song. I love the music throughout. Just listening to the music throughout is kind of like comfort food for me. I enjoyed the storyline of it. I know maybe some of the enjoyment factor comes down a little bit because the styles of it. very dated. And it not only were many of the styles dated, they weren't very good. Yes, yeah, it wasn't polished. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. Bond was not polished. He just kind of seemed like he was wearing the suits my grandpa wore at the time, to be honest. And the acting seemed a little less involved with how that went. However, again, my enjoyment factor of it was still fairly high. At number 11, Moonraker. Yep, Moonraker. I know a lot of people would say, well, I mean, that was stupid. He was up in outer space. I don't think it was that great. I enjoyed it. It's number 11 for me. I love the sets. The sets were huge for the building of the Moonrakers, and that I love the music. Moonraker music, the soundtrack, I absolutely love it. His interaction with the CIA agent, and they played very well together. I mean, so the enjoyment factor comes down a little bit with the whole space thing. It was a little, of course, yes, it was a little ridiculous, but the sets, it was fun. I really found Moonraker to be a lot of fun, and it had Jaws in it. And he was just a fun bad guy. Okay, at number 10, License to Kill. I love Timothy Dalton as Bond for quite a while. Actually, he was my favorite Bond until Daniel Craig came along, and we'll get into that a little later. But Timothy Dalton, loved him. So License to Kill had Dalton. He was an angry Bond. He was revenge driven. That was really interesting to me. The whole movie Bond was just revenge driven, and I enjoyed seeing Q as a field agent and helping Bond out. Again, that was pretty cool to watch. That was fun. The style was lacking in it. Again, Bond was not as polished. It was a very relaxed style that he had. But still, I must have watched License to Kill. A good... The entire time it was in the Dollar Theater. So probably at least a good 40, 50 times I must have seen it. So it's kind of like comfort food for me. Okay, number 9, on Her Majesty's Secret Service. I've got skiing Bond. I've got great music. Beautiful scenery, just gorgeous scenery up in the mountains at times. The lair up on top of the mountain, that is one of my absolute favorite villain lairs of all time. It's just so cool up on that mountain. The acting of Lazenby wasn't that great. Everyone's always known that. And the filming in fast motion during some of the action scenes, that was a little strange. So that kind of brings the enjoyment factor down a little bit. But, it's at number 9. It's way up there. Number 8, You Only Live Twice. I really loved this movie as well. You Only Live Twice. The scenery, the music. Now, this is one of the soundtracks I listened to a lot. The music was great. Big sets. Of course, you've got the big set with the rocket in the volcano. How cool was that? It was really fun to watch. Bond's makeup for that brings the enjoyment factor down a little bit. And then Bond dying, they fake his death so that they can free him up. I mean, they did some really cool stuff with the storyline, I thought. It was enjoyable for me. At number 7, Goldfinger. Again, a great soundtrack. The music is amazing. The scenery at some of it is just amazing. There's some good ASMR moments in that movie as well, especially when Bond is following Goldfinger. That whole sequence, it was really, really nice. The style, of course, Bond had some great suits, and his style was good. The DB5, we got spent a lot of time with that DB5. It was great. It's just a classic. I just love that opening scene. It just captures my attention. And I wish there was a little more action, really, in it. It's got a fair amount. But other than that, there's not a lot more really bad that I can say with Goldfinger. And number 6 is The Spy Who Loved Me. Another amazing soundtrack that I love to listen to. The scenery, again, was great. Style, Bond had great style in this one. You know, of course, it was older style. Big fat ties and big collars and bell bottom and stuff, but still, some amazing styles in there. The dual spies working against each other but together. I mean, that was great. That's always a good, a fun part to a Bond movie. Jaws was in it. And yes, I loved the DB5, but I will say this, when I was growing up and I was a teenager and started really watching these Bond movies, the Lotus, that car, the Lotus, I thought that was so cool. And I lived in an area where they had a Lotus car dealership where they were selling these things. And I went in there and checked them out, and man, what a cool car. I mean, they were really cool. Spy Who Loved Me. Bad? Anything bad that I can mention? I really struggle. At number 5 is GoldenEye. Not a soundtrack that I listened to a whole lot, but when it came out, that soundtrack got my attention because I went and saw that in the theater with a group of friends, and the music was appropriate for the times that we were in, and it really captured my attention. It added to the excitement of it. And this movie was all action. Oh man, was it all action. It had me captivated. Brosnan's style was amazing. I loved his hair. I mean, if Brosnan could have just kept that hair from GoldenEye through all of his movies, I mean, that was his look. That look was perfect for him. It was fast-paced, lots of things going on, never a dull moment to me. Even though a little bit of the music was erratic, and that I thought it was amazing. Number 4, Thunderball. Yep, Thunderball. For my personal enjoyment, I love the action. I love the water scenes. Bond in the water. I love it. Gadgets, fun gadgets, scenery, so beautiful scenery. This is one of the soundtracks that maybe I listen to the most. Thunderball, along with The Spy Who Loved Me. I think I listened to Thunderball almost the most for the soundtrack because the music to me was great. Editing in this one was kind of bad. I almost want to say it might be one of the worst edited ones because they made a lot of mistakes with the editing. But still, my enjoyment level for Thunderball is way up there. Number 3, this will, I think, some of these are going to surprise some people, but I mean, we've only got 3 left. But for me, number 3, for your eyes only. For my enjoyment factor, I love the action. To me, it seemed like there was always big action associated with the different parts of this movie. There was always a really good big action scene involved in every section of the movie. Also, it was beautifully shot. The scenery was amazing. I had skiing Bond, and not only did I have skiing Bond in this movie, I had water Bond. So he's underwater, he's skiing, he's doing all this stuff. I loved it. The music was great. The chase scenes and the cars, the music just was great for the chase scenes. During the tender moments, the music was great. I just loved it. Absolutely loved everything about it. Even Bond got angry at a certain part there. Loved it. And I think, as far as style goes, I think Roger Moore's look about him, I really liked his look in For Your Eyes Only. Number 2, The Living Daylights. For me, that it was extremely high on my enjoyment factor. Again, the action, I had Dalton, a very serious Bond. I loved him as Bond. Lots of action, again, beautiful scenery. The music, so the synthesizer mixed with the orchestra, brilliant. It was, when they came out with it at the time, that music to me was absolutely brilliant. And let me give me a personal story about this. I've left this comment before in some of the Bond community videos whenever they're talking about The Living Daylights, but I'll tell you this story. I was in high school and I was grounded. I can't remember what I did. I think I got in trouble, pretty bad trouble, and I was grounded. And I think I was grounded for like a good couple months, where it was just, I couldn't go do anything. And of course, my brother and I, we were Bond fans, but my brother knew I was a huge Bond fan. I would check Bond books out from the library, not the Ian Fleming ones, but the movie books that had all the pictures of the movies and things like that. And I would check those out of the library and just look through them all the time. So my brother knew I was a huge Bond fan, and he felt bad for me that I couldn't go see the movie. He went and saw it, and he came back, and he's just like, oh man. He's like, that was like one of the best Bond movies I ever saw. And I'm like, oh, you dirty rotten. I wanted to see that so bad, and he knew it. Well, he wanted me to see it really bad too. So he went to my dad, and he said, hey, can he be ungrounded just one night? Because I really want to take him to see this movie, and by the time he's ungrounded, it won't be in the theater anymore, and and it's just one I know he really wants to see. So my dad compromised. He said, well, I'm not gonna make it so that he can't go if the whole family goes. So if it's a family activity, I'll go ahead and let him go too. So my brother paid for all of our tickets. He paid for all of our tickets so that we could go. And it was just great. It was amazing. I loved the music in it. It just, I thought it was one of the best Bond movies I had ever seen. And I remembered, I even remember my dad laughing at certain parts of it while in the theater. He's laughing out loud and saying things like, oh, that would never happen, stuff like that. But I've always been grateful that my brother did that so that I could see the movie, because he got tickets for that very night and took us all out, so that was great. So at number 1, that only leaves one movie left, and of course that's Casino Royale. I have nothing bad to say about Casino Royale. It was just, the action was amazing, the suspense and mystery, just a feeling about it, the feeling that Bond had. There were some, he was a rough and gruff and kind of unpolished, yet he still had this great style. His clothing wasn't unpolished. He had this great style about him. But the way he conducted himself, he was very raw, which seemed very more the character. So yeah, I thought, in the music, of course, the music for Casino Royale just had me captivated from the very opening chase scene. Just that music was just drumming and drumming and driving the movie. But then in tender moments, this beautiful music would come in. So spot on with the music. I can't say anything bad about Casino Royale. In fact, some of the music from it I had as my ringtone on my phone for years. So that is my all-time favorite. So those are my rankings of the Bond movies. It's something I've never done before. I've never taken the time to actually think, well, how would I rank them myself? I've listened to others in the Bond community do it and rank them, but I've never done it. So I had fun doing this and kind of knowing where the Bond movies stood with me personally as well. So I hope you found this enjoyable and hopefully even somewhat relaxing. And I'm going to try to continue with some ideas. But please, I ask that you like and subscribe, comment, share. I'd really like to see if I can make this channel take off. So I appreciate all the support so far. And we'll see you next time. All right, bye.